There comes a moment in life when the illusion shatters, when everything you once believed about yourself, about the world, begins to dissolve before your eyes. At first, this shift feels like clarity, a sudden awakening to the truth that had always been there, just beneath the surface. It is exhilarating, even liberating, to see beyond the veils of conditioning, to recognize the deeper reality that exists beyond societal constructs. But then, something unexpected happens. The truth is not just enlightening, it is painful. It strips away your sense of certainty, leaving you raw and exposed. The weight of reality, of seeing through the illusions you once lived by, can feel unbearable. The spiritual awakening that was meant to bring you peace first brings you suffering. The expansion of consciousness, the opening of the heart, does not come without a price. But why? Why does awakening hurt before it heals? And more importantly, how do you move through this pain without losing yourself? The dark side of awakening is rarely spoken about. We hear about enlightenment, about transcendence, about the bliss of self-discovery. But what about the grief? What about the unbearable loneliness of realizing that the world you knew was built on half-truths, on systems designed to keep you asleep? What about the pain of losing people? Not because they left, but because you no longer resonate. What about the disorientation of outgrowing your old self so quickly that you barely recognize the person staring back at you in the mirror? Awakening is often portrayed as a beautiful unfolding, a return to wholeness. And while that is true, what is often overlooked is the destruction that precedes it. The breaking down of the false, the painful shedding of everything that no longer serves you. It does not feel like a blessing at first. It feels like losing everything you once held sacred, and in many ways it is. Awakening is the dismantling of the false self, the person you thought you were, the roles you played, the beliefs you inherited. The identity, shaped by external expectations, begins to disintegrate, and with it, the attachments that once gave you comfort. Friendships that once felt unbreakable begin to fade, not out of malice, but because they were built on versions of you that no longer exist. Conversations that once engaged you now feel hollow, as if the words are empty echoes of a reality you no longer belong to. The things that once excited you, goals, ambitions, distractions, now seem meaningless. It's not that the world has changed, it's that you can no longer unsee the truth. You can no longer play along in a game that you now recognize as illusion. You are no longer asleep. But in waking up, you realize how much of your life was constructed on foundations that were never real. The structures you relied on crumble, and in their place there is nothing but space, vast, empty, and terrifying. One of the greatest pains of awakening is the loss of connection. When you begin to see through societal conditioning, through the unconscious patterns that keep people trapped in cycles of fear and limitation, you also begin to see how many people around you are still asleep. It is not a judgment, it is an observation. And that realization can be profoundly lonely. You want to shake them awake, to share what you see, to pull them out of the cycle of suffering. But you can't, because awakening is not something you can force upon others. It is something that must happen within them, when they are ready. And so, you find yourself standing between two worlds, the old world you no longer belong to, and the new world that is still forming. You exist in the space between, detached from what once felt familiar, yet not fully anchored in what is to come. The solitude of this transition can be suffocating, but it is also where the real transformation begins. There is also the grief of self-loss, the mourning of who you used to be. The ego, the self-image you carefully constructed over the years, begins to die. The personality you cultivated, the identity you once wore like armor, starts to feel foreign. And even though you know this is necessary for growth, it still hurts. There is a void where your old self once stood, and it can feel terrifying. You are left wondering, who am I now that I am no longer who I was? This stage of awakening is the most difficult, because it requires sitting in the unknown. The mind craves answers, definitions, certainty, but the soul asks for surrender. And surrender is not easy when everything inside you is searching for solid ground. It is the ultimate test, to let go of everything you thought you were, without yet knowing what you will become. But what if this pain is not punishment? What if it is a necessary step in your evolution? What if, instead of trying to escape it, you allowed yourself to feel it fully, to sit with the discomfort, to grieve what is lost, to honor the transformation rather than resist it? Awakening is not just about gaining wisdom, it is about unlearning, about breaking down, about dissolving the walls that once kept you safe but also kept you small. The discomfort you feel is not a sign of failure, it is proof that you are stepping into something greater. The heaviness is not a burden, it is the weight of all that you are shedding, and the more you surrender to it, the more space you create for something new, for something real, for something that was always waiting for you beneath the illusions. So how do you move through this? How do you heal in the midst of awakening? First, allow yourself to grieve. Let yourself mourn the friendships that have faded, the dreams that no longer resonate, the version of yourself that you are leaving behind. Do not suppress this grief in an attempt to stay strong. Strength is not found in avoidance, it is found in the willingness to sit with the discomfort, to let the waves of sorrow move through you without resistance. Too often, we try to rush past our pain, eager to step into the new without properly closing the doors to the past. But healing begins with acceptance, with acknowledging that loss is a natural part of transformation. Just as the leaves must fall in autumn to make way for new growth in the spring, so too must you release the attachments that no longer serve your path. Let yourself feel the weight of this change, but do not become burdened by it. Instead, honor what was. Recognize that every connection, every belief, every identity you once held played a role in bringing you to this moment. And then, when the time is right, allow yourself to let go, not with regret, but with gratitude. Second, find solitude, but do not isolate. The loneliness of awakening can be unbearable if you let it consume you. It is tempting to withdraw completely, to retreat into yourself and shut out the world. But there is a difference between solitude and isolation. Solitude is a conscious choice to retreat inward, to deepen your connection with yourself, to sit in stillness and listen to the whispers of your soul. It is a sacred space where healing occurs, where clarity emerges, where you learn to be whole within yourself. Isolation, on the other hand, is a defense mechanism, a way of shielding yourself from further pain. It is the act of closing yourself off from support, from love, from the understanding that still exists in the world. Do not let the pain of losing connections convince you that no one will ever understand you again. Seek out those who see beyond the surface of existence, even if they are few. Read the words of those who have walked this path before you. Find comfort in spiritual teachings, in poetry, in the stories of those who have navigated this same transformation. You are not meant to walk this road alone. The right people, the ones who align with your soul, will find you when the time is right. But first, you must be open to receiving them. Third, release the need for certainty. Awakening is a journey, not a destination. There will be moments of profound clarity, when the entire universe seems to align, when you feel deeply connected to everything around you. And then, just as suddenly, there will be moments of doubt, times when you feel completely lost, when the path that once seemed illuminated is suddenly shrouded in darkness. This is normal. The mind craves structure, clear answers, a linear path forward. But the soul does not move in straight lines. The path of awakening is not one of logical progression. It spirals, it evolves, it contracts before it expands. Just when you think you have reached a new level of understanding, life will present you with a challenge that shakes your foundation once more. Do not resist this. Let go of the need to have all the answers. Trust that in time everything will make sense. Growth is not measured by how much you know, but by how willing you are to surrender to the unknown. The more you release control, the more you will find that life unfolds exactly as it is meant to. Fourth, rebuild, but do it slowly. As the old self crumbles, the temptation is to immediately construct a new identity, to fill the void with something tangible, something certain. But let yourself be empty for a while. Let yourself exist in the in-between, in the space where transformation happens. It is uncomfortable to sit in this void, to feel as though you are no longer who you once were, but not yet who you are becoming. But this space is sacred. It is where true evolution takes place. Do not rush into new beliefs just to fill the emptiness. Instead, let your new truth emerge naturally. Observe what resonates with you now without clinging to it as absolute. Be fluid in your transformation. The more you allow yourself to be guided rather than forcing a new identity upon yourself, the more aligned your path will become. It is okay not to know who you are right now. It is okay to feel lost. You are not lost, you are unfolding. And most importantly, trust yourself. Trust that the pain has a purpose. Trust that the loss is leading to something greater. Trust that even though awakening feels like breaking, it is, in reality, a rebirth. The dark side of awakening is not meant to destroy you. It is meant to liberate you. But first, you must walk through the fire of transformation. You must allow yourself to be stripped of all that is false, so that only the truth remains. It is a painful process, but it is also the most profound journey you will ever take. This pain is not proof that something has gone wrong. It is proof that you are evolving. You are stepping into a version of yourself that is more aligned, more authentic, more awake than ever before. So I ask you, where are you on this journey? Have you experienced the loneliness of awakening, the grief of self-loss, the painful clarity of seeing through the illusion? If so, know that you are not alone. This path is difficult, but it is also sacred. It is the shedding of all that is false, so that you may step fully into your truth. Every challenge, every loss, every moment of discomfort is carving you into the person you were always meant to be. I invite you to share your experience in the comments. What part of the awakening process has been the hardest for you? How have you found ways to heal? Your story may be the light that guides someone else through their own darkness. There is power in sharing, in connecting, in knowing that we are all walking this path together. And if this message resonated with you, take a moment to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Let's create a space where we honor not just the beauty of awakening, but the struggle of it. Because in facing the darkness, we find our light. In surrendering to the unknown, we discover who we truly are. Thank you for being here. Remember, awakening is not the end. It is the beginning.